when the builders are doing the price, they'll say, oh yeah, house reno is not a problem, we can knock that out for X amount. The thing that they can't account for and never will account for is the engineering of the retaining wall. If there's rock underneath that dirt anywhere, if you've got any mine subsidence or you have landslip or any of that kind of stuff, if there's anything under that dirt, bang, thank you very much, there's a barrier there. G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about designing and building your ultimate home and what to expect. Whether you're a DIY renovator, a budding developer, or everything in between, we'll dive into the building journey, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades about all aspects. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the lounge. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the MTDC Lounge. You're here with your host Matt and Mitch, hitting the table with me again tonight, mate.
Yep, back on it.
Nice one. Guys, if you haven't yet, please make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the follow button down the bottom. We're also putting a lot of show notes and a lot of links that will put you in touch with a lot of the guys that we work with and some of the merch that's coming online. See you there. All right, mate. Tonight we're going to be talking about slopes. What it means to buy a block on a horrible hill. Here at MT Design, we call that the Grant Special. We have seen some horrible blocks come across our desks, and the things that we do to try and help the guys and whoever buys these blocks is nothing short of a miracle. In some of my opinions, I reckon.
Yeah, some of them are like you can work with the slope or you can work against the slope. I guess you could say there are some pros, but there are some cons as well. But yeah, I guess you got to design to the slope. And I guess there's just a few things that everyone should be aware of if they are looking at a sloped blocks, as to what they could be in for, or what sort of questions I guess they should be either asking or just bit knowledge.
One of the things that I find quite regularly when I go out to see clients, the first thing I look at is how the block is falling, exactly what they're doing. Are they going to extend the footprint? Are they going to build on what they have? And we've had surveyors in, we've had guys who have worked with us, we've had clients who've had issues on the podcast with their slopes and how we can get things to work for them. One of the ones that we regularly talk about is one of the jobs out at Dudley. This place was a fishbowl, it was a goat track, it was everything that could possibly go wrong with the block. This block had it. We worked incredibly hard with council and with everybody involved, and the heritage bit was the whole thing too, but one of the biggest deals that we had a problem with was the slope. What we'll do, I think we'll break it down from, I guess, the gentle slopes and the things to watch out for, and then we'll go right to the hectic ones and the things that will need to take place. So the Dudley one is probably our final stop as the hard block. But I mean, when we're talking about the simple blocks, these are the mums and dads and the easy blocks, say, down in Cockle Creek or something like that, super flat. But they have their hidden dangers as well, right? So in my opinion, when I go out to see a client, if the block has a small fall on it, first things I'm looking for are a sealed road, a gutter out the front, and whether or not the block has an easement. We've gone over it a million times.
Where's the water going?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. When there's a danger of us doing our dumpy level, our own dumpy levels, we do it ourselves. We have our own equipment. However, unfortunately, it doesn't take with a degree of accuracy where the boundaries are. So I think that's one of our biggest dangers of doing a dumpy level ourselves. And the only time that I recommend our team doing the measure is when it's something well and truly within the boundary setback. And if it's something small and not so, important to be close enough to the boundary,
and flat in a lot of cases as well, or flat enough that it's not going to give too much grief on site if there's a little bit more fall than what was anticipated.
Our measuring stick only goes so high. I remember once upon a time, I was measuring a site by myself, and the dumpy stick didn't go high enough, and the measuring and the dumpy itself wasn't sitting low enough, and it was just a nightmare. But lessons have definitely been learned from that, and I think even if there is a low fall, towards the back, I still want to make sure that, you know, you've got to fall to the block, and you can always charge a line as long as your gutters are higher than the road. And there's always if there's no sealed road, then you've got to do something with the water, and that's usually a catchment on site. Can be a bit of a problem if floods a thing there too.
Yeah, I think the like there's a few different levels of slopes as well, and how it's going to impact what you're wanting to do. Say let's say if it's a new build, you can either work with it or against it. By that I mean there's a certain level of cut and fill that you can do with the earthworks to try and obviously get enough of a building pad to be flat. If the slope is great enough, then you're going to be more likely looking at splits, whether it's all the way from, you know, say a 600-700 high split through the middle of the house, all the way up to your 2-story splits, where you got 2-story at the front, 1-story at the back, or vice versa. With your single-story jobs, you're probably looking at maybe, what would you say, probably a meter to a meter and a half of fall across the whole building, and you're sort of in those realms of being able to keep it as a single, as a slab without any splits in it, just using basically earthworks, battering.
There's drop edge beams there as well, and the battering's a very, very big thing as well. Like, it's probably important to note as well, there's compliant development rules and there's also council rules. So, you know, your fill can only be a meter high, and it can only be I think the toe of the batter can only be within a meter of the boundary. Things like that. It gets a little bit curly and things like that, but yeah, in the general note, fills and drop edge beams can normally keep the standard floor without any splits with a meter to 1,500.
Yeah, and I think anything over that, and you're gonna be paying more to try and, I guess, get the land to suit the house rather than the other way around. I think like good design's always going to take into account how steep the block is, step it up where it needs to, so you're not doing massive amounts of excavation, where if you design the house in a different way, you'd avoid needing to excavate it.
G'day guys, just quickly, if you're finding this podcast info relevant to you, then I'd like to quickly talk to you about what we do at MT Design Collective. You hear us talk all the time about the importance of solid, detailed home design practices, so that you're not left with extra fees, delays, or unexpected costs in building your ultimate home. Here at MTDC, we design homes and provide plans that builders love to build and councils love to approve. If you're looking at a renovation, a new build, or alteration, then we'd love to help you work out the next steps forward. Book a free, no obligation chat with us, and we'll come out to your site, as it's the only way to truly get authentic, no bullshit advice. Link is in the show notes. Okay, back to the show.
You've got your standard cuts and your fills with your slabs, whatever your footing sizes are. The thing and the danger is, you know, with those 2-story splits, and you know, you start doing some funky stuff with, I guess, the floor heights. Usually if it's too wild, you start thinking about things like, you know, bearers and joist construction, which brings its own hassles, and particularly a lot of dirt has to be removed, particularly under bearers and joists, because you need to have that 400mm clearance underneath your bearer. I'm pretty sure it's a massive space. And particularly if you're real close, I mean, there's a whole bunch of rules, 150mm at the external space, battering down to 700mm at the end of the day. But it's quite a definitive design requirement, depending on the fall of the block. So, it might look like 1,500, and if they're doing if they're doing like a slab, then it works out. But if you're going to do a 1,500mm fall and you're doing bearers and joists, you can add an extra, 400-500mm cut under that. So it gets pretty wild.
Yeah, I think another thing that that the slope of the block is really going to dictate with design is the driveway and the slope of the driveway as well. Because driveways can only be so steep, and when the steeper your block is, the more you've got to worry about with your driveway, how high you've got the driveway to go. Like we've had a job recently where it was a pretty long driveway, but because of the way of how steep it was, the front of the garage door basically had to be at exactly where natural surface was. Couldn't lift it any higher because the driveway wouldn't let us. But what that meant is that because of the depth of the driveway, we had to do a lot of retaining towards the rear of it. Half the garage ended up being pretty well buried behind it at the back, which isn't like, all of this isn't a problem, but it's just something to be aware of. If you are looking at a pretty steep site, you've got to be mindful that there will be restrictions on how high your driveway can go or how low it can go. And then I guess what you need to do around that space, retaining, excavation, just to get, I guess, your baseline correct.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how we start our designs first. We've got to first make sure, can we make that driveway compliant? Is that garage, can we get in there? So every council has their own percentages and they have their own, standard of driveway profile, and we double check that before we even start. So 100%, if you've got that, if you need that 20 to 25% variable rate going down or up into your garage, there's a whole bunch of rules around it, and then that's when we start working out whether or not we're doing a step down garage or step up garage, and then we're stepping it down. If you're doing the step downs in the house, it's an extra cost, and it does look nice, and there's so many design factors that can come with a couple of steps down. I mean, imagine if you've got a 2400 high ceiling in an old school house, and you're doing this add-on. A couple of steps down, all of a sudden you've got yourself 2,700 high ceilings, and it's going to look magic. It's just one of those things. Is the cost worth it? Is the step down worth it? Are you going to step down to another bearers and joist system? Are you going to step down to a slab system? These things, these all, compile a bunch of costs that come with it, and particularly with the engineering from slab to bearers and joist and vice versa. It's one of those things that, have that thought at the start. Understand that there could be an extra cost in it, and see if it's worth it. We get the question all the time, do we need a survey? How many times do you hear it? 1,000 times. We always drive for a survey, but if we have to, we can and we would do the measure ourselves if we can get away with it, because it's going to save cost. But it doesn't matter which way we go. If council turn around and say, no, this is no good, we have to get another one. It's just it's up to the council. We just got to do as we're told.
Yeah, well, I mean, an accurate survey, even for an alteration in addition, it's going to tell you how much of a step down you're going to be looking at. If you've got an old bearers and joist house, it's going to tell us if you're doing a rear extension. Do we carry on that bearers and joist construction, or do we maybe do 2 steps down and go to a slab on ground construction? There are a lot of for what could be, not a lot of height difference. It's still, a lot hinges on it. There's a lot of construction questions that get answered by having the survey, knowing exactly how much fall you've got from, I guess, where you're starting to where you're extending out to, just to tell us how high that's going to go. Step down construction, it dictates a lot. Like the slope does dictate a lot about what you can. Well, what you can and can't do, but also what's going to be the cheaper option to construct. I think that's the big one.
So I'd almost say, look, like the earthworks is not the expensive part. Having a bloke out on the digger all day, that's going to cost a couple of grand for sure. But moving dirt around is nowhere near putting, a 1,500 to 2.5 meter high retaining walls tiered back to try and make it all work. I mean, we've got clients at the moment who were adamant that they wanted that flat pad, they wanted to bench the site, and we ended up getting to a point where they had a 2.5 meter retaining wall up the back, and it was going all halfway down their block. Had a bunch of dirt being removed. You have to pay for the dirt to be removed.
It's got to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere. And because there's just so much dirt, you can't put it back onto the block, because it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to end up with retaining walls. There's so many jobs that I can talk about. Like remember when we did a design for this client. She was a wonderful client. She was really happy. We only added maybe 1,500 mil to the back of the house, and then we changed the kitchen, and we gave her a cathedral ceiling, and we did the rafter design and all the bits and pieces. But her block just behind her house just went up like a goat track, and we were forced to cut out the block and make it flat for her and the kids. And then the house renovation was sitting at about $200,000-$300,000, and then the earthworks, and better yet, the retaining wall portion of the job was exactly the same price. It's It's incredible. And then, so when we're doing a price, and most builders will do it, when the builders are doing the price, they'll say, oh yeah, house reno is not a problem. We can knock that out for X amount. But the thing that they can't account for and never will account for is the engineering of the retaining wall. If there's rock underneath that dirt anywhere, if you've got any mine subsidence or you have landslip or any of that kind of stuff, which you will find on these goat trap blocks, if there's anything under that dirt, bang, thank you very much. There's a vary there. And it's expensive. It's an expensive vary, and that goes to say if we're digging a hole out of a goat track and then all of a sudden they find rock, again another vary. That if there's any rock under that block that's just hiding, it's just going to shoot everything through the roof. There's so many things that have to be taken into account, and that's why a good soil report is needed, and as a matter of fact, is required now by all applications that we do.
Yeah, well, so it's just going to the knowledge is power, I think, and I think what you've touched on there is really it just reinforces like if you can design with the block rather than against it, because it minimizes the chance that these things are going to get uncovered during construction. If not picked up earlier.
Yeah, some of the red flags that I find as well that we're looking for the rock when we go out to site visits. We're looking for the rock. We're talking to the geo consultant. We're talking to the surveyors. Places like Cameron Park, full of rock. Bullaroo, full of holes. There's so many things that we have to be aware of, and things that we hear down the grapevine, and it's just like, all right, we just got to remember that for later. Place down at Dudley, that's a super sandy space that's got landslip all through it. Thankfully, no rock as far as we're aware, but the boreholes only go as deep as 3 meters. Anything's possible when you've got a fall of 8.5 or whatever you have over the space of the block. So yeah, it's the red flags are where are your sewer lines? Can we pay attention to those? If you're on a hilly block, how close is that sewer line to the top of that hill? Is it far? Can we dig there? What's the story? And then if we can't dig there, then that brings this whole problem. Another red flag is rock around the block. You'll see it, you're around it, it's the suburb. One of the other things I like to look out for is like real marshy and wet spaces when I go out to sites, because that, even though it might not be marked as a wetland space or a water thoroughfare or a water course, if water's pulling there, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, you still got to deal with it. Still got to think about it.
You got to, and then if you're doing the bearers and joists or slab on ground, and particularly in Newcastle, if it's a mine subsidence area, if your survey will dictate, how far you're going to put those piers down, or what engineering requirements are going to be needed, particularly for the mine subsidence requirements. And in a sloping area, you've got to have a span of, I think it was 4 or 5 meter footings outside of your envelope for mine subsidence space. That's going to be a massive difference, a massive cost, considering if you've got a block that you already have to cut out, and then if you're already building on top of that block and you've got a mine subsidence problem.
I think another thing that comes to mind with the slope to be like from a design point of view as well, that can constrain it is if this is probably more relating to the really steep jobs where you're already looking at a split level, whether it's a renovation or probably actually particularly with a renovation if you've already got a really steep block. If you do have a really steep block, then your building height is also going to get affected, because as your your land drops off towards the rear, your building height or your maximum building height will also drop off to the rear. So whilst you might be single story at the front, if you're dropping off really steep towards the back, there's going to be a limit to how far you can extend what would be your single story to the rear before you're breaching your height limit.
Yeah, because that's a huge thing. I mean, if you're doing a 2-story split at the rear, and you've got a 3 meter setback that you're only allowed to keep to, and all of a sudden you've got that 2-story split and you're above 4.5 meters, that top floor has to come back 6 meters. You've lost a bunch of space out of your house because of an incredible sharp fall right at the back.
Actually, I've probably got a great example that I'm working on at the moment. It's at the concept stage. It's a really, really steep block, and where the client's interested in looking at seeing what they can do with possibly a 3-story space. I'm erring around the 2-story depending on sort of what we're finding, but at the design space, because of the slope, there's 2 things that we're currently working on finding out first, and that's really going to dictate the rest of the design. The first thing is the driveway profile. We've got to try and cut this down as deep as possible for the setback that we have. So how far can we, I guess, bury down the garage in the distance we have? Because that's going to set up the levels to the rest of the house. And then the second thing is because it drops off. Like there's an existing retaining wall that's probably 3 meters tall.
That's wild.
Just at the rear of the existing house. It's a knockdown rebuild. The second thing we're looking at is talking to the town planners to find out how much of a building height variance are they going to be comfortable submitting to council with. And that's that. Between those two things, we've got a minimum height and then we've got a maximum height. Between that is really going to define how much we can design or what we can fit within those spaces. And that's at the beginning. Like this is at the very beginning of the concept.
Even drawn,
yeah. It's like you've got low point, high point. What can we fit within space? So, and I mean for this one in particular, we can't go too far back on the block because as it drops off, your roof is going to be over the max building height. Yeah, like we might be able to do some things where we're having balconies or unroofed areas come out to the rear to try and still use the space as much as you can. But yeah, no, that's probably a prime example of what a really steep site can give you in terms of challenges or restraints, driveway height, max building height, and we've got this envelope left over to try and I guess get design.
Yeah, so you touched on some really awesome points. I mean, particularly we'll start from the driveway. I mean, yes, we have those profiles that we have to deal with, and there's a calculation in there. There's transition periods. There's 1, 2 variable 1, 2 all the way down to zeros. In terms of the driveway, there are the transition periods, and the summit and the sags can't go any higher than 12.5% in most spaces and things like that. And when you're running with a percentage of a variance of maximum 25% in some places, 20% in others, it's really hard to find that transition, particularly if you've got only X amount of space to get this driveway in. The shorter the driveway, the sharper the percentage. These are all things that we have to pay attention to, and these are important to know before you even get to the DA. Like we could do a whole concept, not do the driveway, and then go, we're right to go, let's go to DA, and then all of a sudden we're doing the driveway profile and the whole thing's stitched up because the driveway profile is wrong. But one of the things is that two things actually about the driveway. One, council are pretty good about it. Like I found that they aren't oblivious to the fact that there are some requirements that aren't going to be met due to a natural fall of the block. But another thing is that the council don't like you to cut into the hill. They don't like touching the crossover before the boundary. So a lot of the councils say, hey, don't touch our crossover. You can keep the natural surface to your boundary, and then you can do whatever you want with it, which does tend to cause a bit of an issue. And then there's been a number of occasions where we've had to reach out to council and say, hey, we're not going to find what we need here. Come to the party. So then, and I don't know that we've had to get like a sweep path, and we had to get engineers involved and things like that. But they do come to the party when we just can't get a result.
I find that like there are some really difficult sites, and there are only so many positions like driveways or garages can go in. So I guess as long as you're presenting the best possible scenario for that garage to go, I think from a design and approval point of view, as long as you're still ticking all the Australian standards and things like that, there's got to be a middle ground there.
I mean, I'll keep harping on about this Dudley job because it was probably the job that really, really flexed everything that we possibly could. But we got hit up by council. We said that there was no way that we could put the driveway up the top because it was such a short end and it was right before a corner. We know that you can't put a driveway within 6 meters of the chord of your corner. We had no choice because on the long side, it was even worse and it was even steeper. And one of the conversations,
3 meters. Was it 3 meters of height difference between the curb, where the curb was, and where the driveway RL?
It was something. It was outrageous, and the throw was so short too. And one of the conversations that we had even on site when we met council on site is, why can't you put it there? I'm glad you asked, because here's 4 other designs that we had done to see if we could make this work in any way. But, council were great about it, and they acknowledged the fact that, we had tried everything. And one of the things, and you touched on it just before, is the height requirements. The quicker it fell away, the quicker our height requirement started to fall short. And like, while you do have a variant, like, you do have an opportunity to apply for a variance over the 10%, but it goes to a council board, and a whole lot of people get involved in all the bits and pieces. And unfortunately, people don't know that. They don't know what they don't know, and particularly when they've got a sharp block, they don't know how high the building's going to be, particularly if you want a specific size. It is just one of those things that we have to work with and deal with, and unfortunately, it is the nature of the beast.
I think there's with the split level design, there's like, you're working with the block, but there's opportunities there that you can really invite into the design as well. Like, if you've got a fair bit of slope over the block, then usually you're going to be presented with some views somewhere that's going to accompany that, whether it's the front, whether it's the rear. You've also got the opportunity for letting a lot more light into the middle of the house as well. You can have some like additional windows with the splits and things like that as well. But also the grand, like, you can quite easily achieve a really grand feel to a home as well. If you're walking from a smaller space into a space that opens up both below and above, you're going to get that really big expanse. Like a good combination would be, even if it's only 2 or 3 steps down towards the rear, but then above you've got cathedral ceilings as well. It will really feel like you're opening up the entire house at that section. Likewise for the front, if you've got a step up to the rear, for example, I guess that's where you can look at the getting more light into the house from the back section, or even just opportunity for views for like a front balcony and things like that as well. But there's pros. There are pros to it. Like, I know we've been talking about how hard or what the trade-ups can be with split levels, but there are good things that comes with split level homes as well.
I think in terms of design, I think a split level can be absolutely amazing. I mean, we've done some awesome void spaces. We've done some great stairwell spaces, particularly with those those double story splits at the back, chucking a beautiful stair void right through the center, or you're just drenching that living space in light. It can look fantastic, but in terms of like step downs in slabs or all that kind of stuff, 100% completely agree. You can have this little tight unrenovated old school house that feels real squishy, and then you go through a 900 mil hall or something like that, and then you take a couple of steps down, and then all of a sudden it just blasts open into this huge open plan living with open kitchen, massive windows, huge doors. It's going to feel real cozy on the front half of the house, but it's going to be huge and inviting. Like, I mean, there's a job that we did down at Newcastle, and one of my favorite jobs. We just got it through council, just got approved. Super tight little hallway, and then as you come down through the hallway, it just completely opens up. Massive living space. Got a little bit of a step down, completely opens out into this huge veranda, massive open ceilings. You got a great, beautiful look over the park that's just behind it. And the guys that we're working with, the clients, have just been absolutely amazing, and they've just kind of just said, look, hey, creative control, do what you can. And it's just this, it looks amazing. Can't wait till it gets done. But once it gets built, it's just going to show, how important it really is to pay attention to where your stairs are, and how you incorporate your stairs into your thoroughfares, and then opening it up into, a step down that could have looked really bad and not worked with anything. But if you do it right, it's all
turn it into a feature.
Absolutely. I think, and the Japanese do it well. If it's broken, put gold in the cracks. I don't see it as a problem. I see it as an opportunity to try and develop something that's actually going to work. And I am more of the opinion, if it is meant to be an eyesore, if you make it something that looks good, nobody ever pays attention to it. Like, work with the problem and make it a feature.
There's probably a lot of opportunity for additional storage as well in split levels. Like, we're talking you're talking like 2-story splits. So there's a lot of opportunity for storage, and like who doesn't want more storage? Like, like even your garages. Like, even if you go to a cut-in design where the back of the garage is still, you got integrated retaining walls. There's still an opportunity for a lot of storage either to the subfloor or even just using a space that's already going to be underneath that house, digging out a little bit further and creating extra storage spaces. Like I've seen them done before, where even some of them are turned into media spaces and things like that as well. So there's, like you said, you work with it, and there's opportunities no matter which way your block is sloping, whether it's from the street going up or going back down, whether it's flat, I guess.
Media room. So if we're doing that split and having that back wall going onto dirt, media rooms are bang on, perfect for that. You're having a nice cold media room, nice and dark. You're having a nice comfortable spot in there. Magic, perfect spot for it. Cellars, if you're right into your wines or anything like that, you chuck your wines in there. Amazing, thank you very much. All your services, if you're running your lifts and things like that, easy place to put all of your machinery work. Easy place to place it, because you can shore it up, you retain it. You've got integrated retaining walls, you've got spoon drains, you've got drainage systems that you can get all that kind of noise out of it, and then you just have a really nice, climatized space underneath that, that split that you can use for a place. I don't like sleeping in the heat. I'd go for the coldest spot in the house every day of the week. You would find a room or a place that you want to climate control appropriately in that space. Obviously, you have to worry about if it's a living area, you have to make sure you can get a window to outside. But other than that, everything else is pretty sweet. But yeah, you dig all your places that you want super cold into as close as you can to the back, and then you get all your living spaces. It's going to be open, and you get that really nice homey feel. Particularly, and I mean, there's jobs that we've done at the moment that have like mezzanines, double-story mezzanines, and things like that, which are amazing because you've just got this massive void space and a big glass wall there. Going to flood a bunch of light in. It's going to look absolutely magic. And there is a step. It's about 4 or 5 steps down, and then you've got a 2-story step up. And like it just works. It looks fantastic, but it is a mission. There is definitely steps that need to be taken to make sure that it gets done right. I mean, we're saying that there's a lot of good stuff that can definitely happen, but there has been a couple of instances where engineering hadn't been done properly, and for a slope of the block, and if there's a slope in the block, the water's running somewhere, and if that water isn't properly released away from that retaining wall, it's hammering that retaining wall and it's coming straight over. So the things that absolutely have to be paid attention to are, where's that water going? Is there enough drainage? Is the engineering done right? And has it been designed properly for the block?
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that myself. The 2-story splits, or any split level for that matter, or any time that you're below natural surface on the outside, there's always going to be that opportunity for water to get into the building. So that's just needs to be engineered, built, waterproofed right. Whether it's an integrated retaining wall, whether there's a bit of a gap with spoon drains, like it's an area in particular that is fine if it's designed and engineered and just paid attention to. Really, it just needs to be just paid attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably one of my biggest worries. Has the engineer paid attention to it enough to make sure that it's going to cope with all that rainfall? Is the builder confident and happy to do that retaining wall, or are they doing the batter to that? Are they going to have that drainage system? Because it's not cheap to fix, and particularly if you're going to have that subfloor space, that water is going to sit somewhere. It's going to get moldy. It's going to get cold. It's going to get musky. You want to get that airflow through it. You want to make sure that the space is underneath.
Get the water out of there.
Absolutely, every day of the week. I guess there's a bunch of jobs that are coming out. There's going to be a bunch of collateral that we're going to start chucking up on our socials. I can't wait to show everybody about it, and then what it means to design for a goat track.
Yeah.
Can't wait. There you have it, guys. Thanks for joining me again tonight, mate. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, or if you want to talk about building on a block that has a horrible fall, please feel free to give us a call. We're always happy to have a chat. Otherwise, again, like, subscribe, follow, do all the great stuff, and we'll see you on the lounge next week. Thanks for listening to this week's ep of the Lounge. To make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, hit subscribe. We'd love to get the message out to more homeowners like you. Make sure you leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next ep.